Johnson's there, Billy in, a goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Ruby and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome back to the Andy Takes That Chance review show. After us spewing froth and venom this past week, could Huddersfield Town pacify this moaning bunch of aging men? By showing up in the Yorkshire Derby against Barnsley, Town were aiming to make it 11 league games without defeat at home so far this season. Could they do it? Well, no spoilers, but here to review the game with me, Matt Shaw, we have the Silkman Ian Kilroy, all the way from the US of A. It's Jerry Hinnen, and a man who needs no introduction, a man who's had his struggles lately, but still shows up to volunteer and help at his local hospice because he's a top man and he's always missed when he's not on the pod. Give some love to the bear. Kosi is back on the pod. How are you doing, mate?
Mate, I'm all right. I had some struggles yesterday when it were absolutely arsing it down. Now we're in that north stand lower. My glasses were absolutely... I could have done with some windscreen wipers on, man. It were absolutely torrential. You know what? It just... Whatever way you can stand on that back row or that side row, it got you. But yeah, mate, we were singing in the rain at the end. But sorry to give the game away there. Spoilers alert there.
I know. There's people that don't watch the result just for this.
Anyway. Yeah.
Can you imagine? Okay, so before we'd start, we'd like to dedicate this episode to Roy Ellum. Roy sadly passed away this past week at the age of 83. Roy was born in Hemsworth and he started his career at Bradford City before Town came calling in 1966. Upon Town's relegation from the top flight, Ellum joined Leeds United before returning to Town in 1974 for a final hurrah before moving to Philadelphia and Washington Diplomats in the USA with a spell at Mossley between. Yeah, he'd even then try his hand at management with Gainsborough Trinity, and then latterly Roy could be seen at the Acu Stadium supporting the Terriers with his family. So Roy Ellum, thank you for representing our club with the honour, class and quality that you did. Okay, guys, we'll move on to Town versus Barnsley. So Town starting in their 3-4-3 shape. We saw Alfie May come in for Dion Charles up front. That was the eye-catching change. Cameron Humphreys into midfield to the centre of the park. Killer, we kind of shrugged our shoulders a little bit because Town are a bit more direct these days, and throwing Alfie May up front instead of Dion Charles didn't really feel like it would solve Town's problems. And although after 15 minutes, we did shift in possession, didn't we, to a tactic of 4-1-4-1 in possession. The back three was a problem of our own making, really, and Reyes Cleary caused Lasse Sorensen a lot of issues, didn't he, at the start down their left-hand side, and I thought he was a really good player.
He was. I thought of all the wingers we've come up against this year, defensively, you don't look at it as the opposing team, I always think. As long as they're not making massive errors, you just kind of ignore that and you look at what they can do on the ball going forward. And going forward, Cleary looked a class above any other winger for a lot of the game on Saturday. We did struggle with that for quite a while, Matt, but we did, whilst we didn't pick this team entirely on the drive-in, we kind of did have a worry that did come, I think, to fruition on Saturday, in that we were worried about how the central midfield would go. Now, Barnsley have a decent centre midfield with Connell and Phillips played in it a little bit with Kelly a little bit more advanced this weekend, but we knew they'd be pretty solid in there. And our issue was always, can Humphreys and Ledson, if they are given that pairing, or if it's Kasumu over Humphreys, a selection of two of those three, how can we create chances through dominating midfield and passing the ball forward? And now for me, looking at that lineup, Matt, that had me worried straight away. Like I say, Sorensen struggled a little bit defensively, but the way we were lined up, it wasn't surprising being the back three as per Manning's preference at the moment, especially when it's coming to starting games. but it just lends Town into being a lot more defensive, a lot deeper than I think they needed to be. And to be honest, Matt, that first 45 minutes, I know we shifted a little bit out of possession and whatnot. We did go man for man in the press for the first 15 minutes, which is something Liam Manning also likes to do. It gets me a little bit excited, to be honest, because I think, he's back. Here we go. We're going to play front-footed football all the way through this game. But 15 minutes in, we settle a little bit more into this week, Matt. I thought it was a bit of a throwback to a WM formation, Herbert Chapman's, our other favourite chappers, where you've got 3 defensive lads. You've got 2, they used to call them halfbacks, but obviously we call them defensive midfielders now. And then we kind of had a front 5 press for quite a while. It's a little bit different on the WM variation, but I think that's what the game plan was initially. It just, the problem we had with it from the off was that midfield can't dictate play whatsoever. So whilst it's not surprising, I think it was surprising to see Gooch all of a sudden be injured. I don't think we expected that. We thought he'd be somewhere abouts on Saturday. Obviously, he's going to be out for 6 weeks, according to Manning after the game. I believe, although I might be wrong on that. I think that's what he suggested. But no, it's pretty much what we expected, Matt. But again, with the problems we expected to potentially see, and Barnsley going forward are pretty decent. Unfortunately for us, I thought they started pretty well, Barnsley, and we didn't really adjust quick enough for my liking anyway.
See, I thought, Kosi, the first 15 minutes, I thought it was quite a good game. I thought it was end-to-end. Town had their bits. Cameron Humphreys got down the sides a couple of times, and it just felt like Town's final ball wasn't quite on the money. Sorensen got into a couple of areas. He fed Alfie May. Alfie a little bit behind him at one point. There was another cross where Barley Mumba, I think, could have got onto it, but he was... Poor Barley Mumba. I think if he was 6 foot, he'd have 5 goals for Town this season, but unfortunately he's 5'6". But it was after 15 minutes, it kind of drifted a bit, and there's a David McGoldrick disallowed goal. But you could just kind of see at this point, couldn't you, the game was starting to shift and move away from Town a little bit, and Barnsley just about started to get on top at this point.
Yeah, they did. McGoldrick's a wise old fox, isn't he? I've always rated him, mate, wherever he's been. Some players I think you always rate, and yeah, I remember him when he was Sheffield United, absolutely outstanding. Obviously, we'll come on to his goal in a minute, but yeah, I thought it was fair enough, Matt. He was offside. I know he was wagging his finger at the linesman because I was right near him, like as if to say you got it wrong. But yeah, I'm kind of a bit worried. I thought midfield were kind of a bit open, mate, and yeah, they were getting, like Killer was saying there, their midfield too were really having an impact as well, and the winger was causing us trouble. But having said that, I thought we kind of fizzled out at going up the top end as well. I mean, might come on to Alfie May later, who, again, absolutely anonymous. And yeah, got a standing ovation at the end. I think if Dion Charles had put in that shift, he wouldn't have got a standing ovation. So I think we've got an issue with Alfie May, but hopefully we can come up with a solution later on. But yeah, no, I thought we've kind of fizzled out a bit, Matt. And then the rain started to fall, and I started to feel the rest of the first half were pretty grim, to be fair, mate, and that as well. And yeah, I don't know if you're going to come on to the goal now, because I don't think a lot else happened really. I think there was a harness.
There's a harness header. Yeah. It was pretty much our first shot on target in about 220 minutes of football, which it was met with some sort of ironic cheers, which is never really helpful. But you can't blame people at the same time, can you? But it was. It was slim pickings for Town in that first half, and unfortunately Barnsley just got the better of us. And all of you can chat about the goal. I had, you guys know where I say, Killer's not too far from me as well. I just had the perfect view. Yeah. And do you know what? People can kind of point fingers and say, Ryan Ledson should have done this, Lasse Sorensen should have done this. But sometimes you've just got to say, do you know what? That's a very good goal by a very good footballer. And McGoldrick just gets better as he gets older, and it's ridiculous how good his movement is. He wriggles through and almost scores afterwards as well, but he's too narrow on the near post, and Nichols can easily push it away. But the technique for him to just cut inside and hit that, I don't think anyone really expected him to just pick the top corner out like he was, prime... Just like prime Premier League years, he was phenomenal. He was brilliant. Was McGoldrick, and he's a player I really like. And how he drops deep into midfield and dictates play, and he just pulls defenders all over the place. He's so clever. He's still a really, really good footballer, and that was just a great goal by a great player. And as soon as it left his foot, I was like, you could tell it was in. It was flying in. There was a massive gap. Nichols was never going to make up the distance. 2 keepers wouldn't have made up the difference. It's a phenomenal goal. And sometimes you just have to say, do you know what? Fair play. That's quality, is that?
I'm not saying
Anyone
that,
can
Matt. I'm
talk.
not saying that. I'm
Come
not
on,
saying
get
that.
it.
What's
Are you
Sorensen doing, man? What is he doing? First off, Alpha made him follow short throw. Short throws in, leaves him, goes too late. It's a nice little ball into McGoldrick. But Sorensen there, come on, man. Ledson's next to him, and we have got a 2-on-1 on him, but Ledson doesn't bother because realistically, Sorensen should just show him on his left. He pulls out the duttiest little attempted pretend back heel. Sorensen buys it, and then he's got half a yard. Now that's class. That is Premier League quality to buy that half a yard. And now up until the 65th minute, we didn't have a guy in our team, I don't think, that could do that, where it's just kind of like a proper striker goal. It's not fantastic. It's not great. The finish, it's one of those that looks great, yeah, but with the positioning of it, where you are in the box, with the opening up, they're actually not as difficult, I don't think, as trying to smash one straight from outside the box. I think they're kind of, I can't really talk about myself.
I reckon idea for an episode here, Killer, is that we're going to go onto a field and we're going to give you a football and see how many times you can whip it into the top corner from that far side of the box. Because
I think no. Rather than hitting a straight direct bullet from outside the box that has to go straight into the top corner, I find them more difficult than what Goldrick did. But the back heel bought him just enough time to get away. We don't have a guy, or we haven't had a guy that can do that. But that's what it shows you in this division, how to score goals. You don't have to take it round 4 players. Like you say, Matt, he nearly did it afterwards, and then Nichols got there and stopped it off. But you don't actually have to do that. All you have to do is drop a shoulder, a little jink, and then you have a go. And now we went 2.5, nearly 2 full games and an extra half, because like you say, that harness header, Matt, I love people celebrating that. I thought it was the best part of first half for Town. There was a guy in front of me that full on jumped up, double hands up, proper going at it. And I'm like, yeah, all right, fair enough. It has been pretty dire. And if he'd gone to Stevenage and Doncaster, I appreciate it, mate. You know what? You've earned that right to do that. But that's how you score goals. That's how proper strikers score proper goals. A little nudge, a little drop, a little fake back heel, buys a little bit of time. Sorensen bites, Ledson doesn't cover, and he's put it in. It's a fantastic goal. It is. And I wouldn't stand up and applaud it. I'm not going to go that far, but there are still errors there are still a few errors there on Town's side that could have and probably should have stopped that. But I actually thought it was quite fair for Barnsley. I think Town had most of the ball in the first half. But again, possession where we were trying to hit it long quite a lot from Murray Wallace. We changed tact a bit in the second half, but first half, again, it was very much trying to ping it, wasn't it, to the wing backs, trying to hit it long and trying to turn Barnsley around and try and get over the head of their fullbacks. It didn't really work, whereas Barnsley didn't have too much of the ball, but when they did, they got it forward, and it felt like, not they were going to score every time, but they felt like they were going to make some sort of serious progress and ask us questions, whereas we didn't do that in that first half. But McGoldrick, he looks pretty fantastic for the age that he is. I think he's only a few days younger than me, or maybe a few days older than me. But he looks a lot fitter than I'd be if I were playing at the moment. He looks like he's got a fair few years left in him just yet as well, doesn't he? I think he's on 12 goals now for the season for Barnsley. And Keeler Dunn got 16, so there's a chance by the end of the season he'll end up their top goal scorer. He's a guy that's getting better and better. Like you say, he was in League 2 a couple of years ago. Look at him now. He was the best striker on that field for the majority of the game.
I think what's annoying, Matt, just like Tuesday night, is like, I'm thinking, we're not playing well here. Let's get in the sheds, as they say. Come on. But no, like, just like Mumba on Tuesday, just stick his hand out. And just like, obviously that were a bit of brilliance. I agree with you, Matt. I've watched it back a few times, and yeah, you can kind of question something a bit, but it is just sometimes. I think trouble is in modern day football. I think I blame Gary Neville for all this, where they could have done this and could have done that. It's just, back in the day, I remember when like Bergkamp, Wright, and all these Henry, we were like, this is brilliant. But now, because there's that much analysis and everyone can be tracked and all this lot, sometimes you just got to say, I clapped it, mate. And I know I might get a smack, but I didn't care. I like, you don't see much quality in League One, do you? And obviously we've been privileged to see Ledson's brilliant goal the other Tuesday and then that. But yeah, just a master at work. And then the next bit, Matt, at the time, I didn't think it was a penalty, but they were going absolutely mad. It was quite funny, actually, because Uran's, in his protest, he slipped. I don't know if you saw it, but all their bench got off and he went flying. He slipped on all fours. But anyone else I've spoke to, and that includes Town fans, said it was an absolute stonewall penalty on Patrick Kelly went down.
Well, ask Jerry, because I think Jerry says it wasn't, and he watched it on saw a few replays.
Yeah, I didn't think it was, but everyone else says it was.
I didn't think it was. I know, opinions vary. Our esteemed Mr. Chicken over We Are Terriers felt like it was a penalty. I don't know. I've seen it given, but I don't think it was in my book. It just there wasn't enough in it for me. I feel like Town was, in any case, I think Town was owed that after the Mumba penalty on Tuesday, it's a penalty like, the ref is going to give it every single time. But I just absolutely hate these sorts of like, just a fairy comes down and waves a wand and like out of absolutely nothing, Doncaster have a goal, right? Because it's, should Mumba have his hand there? Probably not, but it's not like Doncaster did anything to earn that penalty kick. It's just like there's a ball over the top. Molyneux heads it somewhere he's probably not even trying to really head it. It happens to hit the Town player's hand. I hate it. We need to find something to do in football where that's like an indirect free kick or we do something else. You shouldn't get a goal out of that. So I don't think
don't you be American trying to change the rules of English football, Jerry. That won't
right.
go down well.
Coming over here, Matt. Coming over here, changing our rules. What's this nonsense, Jerry? What is this going? Where are you going?
Look, I just don't want to see football matches decided by fairies sprinkling and like handing out penalties like candy. Okay, I think it needs to be decided by real goals.
Sweets, Jerry,
and
sweets.
So the point of all of this is to say I don't think Town have to have any apologies about that non-penalty in the first half. They're also, maybe the bench was complaining because I didn't think Barnsley's players reacted like they thought it was going to be a penalty. There's some very kind of mild,
funny watching now go down,
complaints, but there wasn't the kind of uproar you expect to see when the players feel like it's a stonewall penalty. Not for me.
Jerry,
to be honest, because there's like 5 minutes before that, there's a corner comes in and Ryan Ledson has his shirt pretty much ripped off his back. So if that Kelly one's a penalty, then that Ryan Ledson one is. So maybe that's even.
It was just such a weird incident, Matt. I mean, I had a great view of it, but obviously I'm the perfect guy to judge these stuff because this was a guy who went to Sheffield Wednesday Huddersfield who were telling people scores that were wrong and stuff. And today I think I tweeted out that Laura Elford got the win and it was Reba. But I always think your best instincts are the first one. Sorry, Jerry, I disagree. I had a great view of the Mumba handball at Doncaster. I said straight away to Paul Hurst, that's a penalty. No arguments. And for what we know a penalty is, but that one, my first instinct was not. I watched it on my phone, although to be fair, it were like covered in water, and I didn't think it was. But I think because you're at that side, Matt, and like obviously like Uran and is at that side and their bench,
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I just thought no, but obviously it's just a gut feel. But luckily there, because I'm thinking all of a sudden from being like 0-0 to be 2-0 down, maybe Slova's got to score it and that as well. So yeah, it were a bit disillusioning. I thought, Matt, we ended the game so flat in the first half that people around me kind of in the H-Town at half-time drying out were just like, we don't want to go back out. And how can we just turn in these first half performances? It wasn't as bad as some of them, but again, it was just a non-event from Huddersfield Town when we're behind. And honestly, Matt, I'm going to admit it now, but I was thinking I ain't off to Wigan next week if this doesn't change. But obviously the rest is history. But I just thinking, where is this season heading from being so optimistic? We're losing. We lost at Stevenage. We lost at Donny, and we're behind against a poor Barnsley team. And yeah, luckily. Go on, Mike.
Oh, you're going to get Killer Froth in there because Killer, you thought Barnsley were pretty good, didn't you?
Yeah, I do. I thought going forward they're really good. That's why they've scored as many goals as they have. Defensively, they've kept, get this, under 50 games now for Hurahan. They've kept 3 clean sheets in 50 games. So honestly, I was quite baffled when I saw that stat, and I only saw that afterwards, Mark. Because if I'd have seen that at the drive-in, I probably wouldn't have changed my prediction as we were spot on again. But they are defensively very suspect. Going forward, they are good at midfield. I thought their midfield was really, really good. I thought they don't have the depth, and I think that's the issue. We have the ability, even with a few injuries like we've got, to make changes, proper systemic changes. Where if this way of play is not working, we'll change and go a different way and try that, as we seem to do at most half times over the last few games because the initial setup was wrong. As is what happened on Saturday. Whereas with Barnsley, as soon as McGoldrick got knackered, they totally dropped, and you could see that they were a total different team from about 55 minutes in. And they don't have the money. They sold Keeler done for $2 million, and their fans are complaining it's not been reinvested into another striker. Tom Bradshaw obviously came on later in the game. He had 4 touches in the entire game from the moment he came on, which is a very Huddersfield Town-esque kind of performance, isn't it? A bit of a Bobby Wales, as we may call it, from now on out, Matt. But that's what Barnsley's issues are. I think the way they play football under the budget that they've got is actually pretty good. And had we have lost, again, no spoilers, they'd have been 5 points behind us with 4 games in hand. They're not miles away from us when it comes to the what they've actually got on the board in regards to the points with the games in hand. And they have much easier fixtures. Their next 6 games are against teams below them in the league. So Barnsley will do a bit better than where they are at the moment, I think, as long as McGoldrick can stay a little bit fitter for a little bit longer. They played quite a different way than they usually do. If you notice in that first half, and I don't know if anyone's caught the Hurricane interview after the game, they went long. They saw what Stevenage did to us. They saw what Lincoln did to us. And in that first half, they were trying to ping it quite long. So they played it a little bit, but they didn't play around with it at the back as much as they usually do. They changed their approach for us. And to be fair, boys, I thought they were deservedly winning at halftime. I thought they deserved that first half. Even though we had more of the ball, they had more of the game for me. Second half, it does change quite dramatically. But again, it's down to squad more than anything else. But I don't think Barnsley are as bad as some people are making out. I have this down as a really solid win at the end of the game.
Killers just let the cat out of the bag. So second half, Town start quite poorly, don't they, in the second half? And then they go 4-4-2. So prior to this, Town had... it's very common to have like an in possession and an out of possession shape. So out of possession, Town were basically 5-4-1, but in possession they switched to a back four, which meant Barley Mumba went from left wing back to central midfield, and it wasn't really working. It was interesting, but it wasn't really working, and it reminded me of Danny Schofield doing that with Yuta whatever he was called, the Japanese centre back. Thank you, Mike Fotheringham. But Yuta, he used to play. He had him coming from to central midfield when we had the ball, and it didn't work at all then either. But I could kind of see what he was trying to do, but he was trying to search for something to change the game, and he changed it again in the second half. We brought on Ryan Hardie, and we'll talk about Ryan Hardie in a little bit. But first of all, 1 minute after Ryan Hardie comes on, Barley Mumba. I thought Barley Mumba didn't really have a great game, in all honesty, but. He does produce one moment of quality, and that's when he goes down the left-hand side. He checks back. Ryan Ledson makes a gut-busting run, and in he goes and heads it into the net. And to the right of me, there's laughter, and it's my little 7-year-old absolutely creasing himself. I'm like, what are you laughing at? And he's laughing, going, Owen Goodman just did the Spider-Man thing. Do you know where Spider-Man jumps, shoots webs through his legs? And he's absolutely in fits of hysterics that Owen Goodman's done the Spider-Man thing, like this. And if people want to know why Owen Goodman jumped at it like that, I can fill him in, but I'm not that bothered. But
I know it's not the Barnsley podcast, but who were marking Ledson?
He's big, man. He's a guy that he's a guy that did something wonderful in the first half for the same age as me, but then shows exactly how I defend now at my age, because McGoldrick was on Ledson. Yeah. McGoldrick was on him and he just left him go. Yeah. It was with him. And about 5 yards outside of the 18-yard box, he just goes, I'm too old for this shit. See you later. And Ledson just went free. And the sea parted and he nodded it in, and it was a fantastic finish. To be fair, Matt, Goodman's done the right thing there. I've seen and listened back to the Read All Over podcast today, the Barnsley fans. They had an early morning podcast, and they're basically taking the piss out of Owen Goodman. And to be honest, by the injury incident, I think performance-wise, by the one where he's put it onto Balker, onto whatnot, that aside, I thought he did, for both goals, nothing wrong. I don't think he could do too much for either of them. And this one, he's jumped like Spider-Man, because that's how you make yourself big, isn't it, Matt? To cover the most of the goal. That's what you're supposed to do. He does look funny, but he's done the right thing.
He thinks Ryan Ledson's heading it high, so he's tried to cover as much of the space. To be fair,
most players would have headed that hard and fast, and that's where it'd have gone. Yeah. But Ledson's clever. Honestly, that headed finish is a wonderful design finish, in that he's taken a bit out of it, he's waited and just positioned it into the bottom. It was a brilliant header. But the move by Barley Mumba is fantastic. But the best part about it, Matt, and this is where the change in system went, it wasn't just a 4-4-2 in this, it was the defensive line. The defensive line was much higher. Murray Wallace drove the ball forward for the ball to Barley Mumba. He got the ball. There was 15 yards of space, and he took this 15 yards of space. And now this is something that we must have bored people senseless about when it comes to how centre-backs create movements going forward. If the space is there, man, you just take it. You don't wait. You don't look. You don't take your time. You just take that space as quickly as you can. Rodinho Balker does it as well as any centre-back in this division or the division above. He, on the ball, is great because this is what he does first. If that space is there, he takes it and then you play from there. But Murray Wallace doesn't only just take the space, he then misses Ryan Ledson out in the initial pass. He passes it to Barley Mumba first off. Again, that's something else that we've gone through periods in this season not doing, not missing. And this is after half-time. This is, I think, where you can see what Liam Manning's told them to do at half-time. In that he didn't make the change straight away. I think that's quite surprising. I'd have made it at half-time, but a lot of managers like just to leave it a couple of minutes to see how the game's going. And Barnsley, to be fair, I thought they started better in that second half than we did until We didn't make those changes, but as soon as we made those changes, we started missing out passes. We started driving the ball out from the back, and it takes 2 minutes for the goal to come. But the drop from Barley Mumba, it's as good as Goldrick's first time round. He's sold Sorensen. Mumba's gone on his right foot instead of going on his left. For the earlier part of the game, he kept going outside. And to be fair, Matt, I'm with you. I thought Barley Mumba was actually pretty awful for the first 45 minutes. Only on the ball, though. I think defensively, when your fullback does his job defensively, nobody ever stands up and goes, "You've had a great game today," because they want a little bit more out of your fullback. And I know he played a little bit higher, Matt, because it was a midfield 5, so it was as a wing back who came in as a central midfielder. On the ball, he was poor. He was more than poor. But defensively, he was still fine, and positionally, he was still fine. So you kind of can forgive him making a few errors going forward if he can create moments like this, because that goal's all on that cross. It's a wonderful cross. There's a nice little run as well to the front post that drags the defenders away to make the gap for Ledson to run into. It was a really well-designed goal, and there isn't much other than McGoldrick following Ledson that Barnsley can do to stop it. It was a fantastic goal.
Talk about Ledson then, Jerry, because Ryan Ledson... first half, I think first 10, 15 minutes, he was pretty good. And then he had a 30-minute dip, and he's had a couple of games where he's probably not been at it, Ryan Ledson. But second half, I thought he put in a real captain's performance, and I thought he really drove Town forward from midfield. I know the goal changes a lot, doesn't it? Because Town were quite nervous, I thought, first half. Very sort of tentative, very nervous. Kosi might mention some of the shouts from the crowd. Probably won't. It's probably not worth mentioning. But
some of the
Ryan
tweets
Ledson,
are the worst, though. Shocking.
Yeah, I thought second half Ryan Ledson was really good. He was first to every sort of second ball, and he really dominated the middle of the park. And that's the Ryan Ledson that we got against Bradford, we got against Luton, and he was back to doing really good Ryan Ledson things. And for me, he was quite just a little bit above Murray Wallace for man of the match. I thought it was really good, Ryan Ledson, especially in that second half. Wax lyrical, Gerald.
No, he was the man of the match. There's no question. I think not just, you look at, and you have to say he's heavily involved in both goals. Like, he obviously scores the one. It's a fantastic run. I do think it's kind of funny, tale of two halves sort of thing. McGoldrick pops up, just outside his own penalty area a couple of times in the first half to make these kinds of defensive plays. And then, as you point out, Killer, he's not still making those kinds of defensive plays in the 55th to the 60th minute. It's asking a little bit too much. But it's a fantastic run from Ledson. And then the second goal he's heavily involved in. He's the player who makes the pass to Ashia, which, if you watch the replay back, it's a really, really, I think it may be a first-time ball that really just makes the goal. Honestly, it splits Barnsley's defense open. And so you say, okay, well, here's our defensive midfielder, sort of all-action kind of guy who's also, scores one and basically helps create the other. In my mind, it wasn't even all that close. I think Wallace and Balker both had excellent games, but I thought Ledson was hands down the man of the match. You look at, I think, again, Killer's right. Barnsley have a lot of attacking potential on the field. Even once McGoldrick, kind of wound down a little bit, that's still a team that can score goals. And they really did not have any big sniffs in the second half. That's, a lot of that is down to Wallace and Balker, but it's also down to Ryan Ledson taking control of that midfield and, sort of shutting things down before they get going. So I thought he was just tremendous. The point I was going to make about Barley Mumba is this is now the second time, and I think 4 games going back to Blackpool, where he set up a Town goal on an absolute platter for someone, and, you do, I think, have to put up with a lot of sort of maybe wobbly on ball play if you are also going to occasionally get a ball that's like a goal, 9.5 times out of 10. Those sorts of passes that he played, like the cross for Ledson there. If you're going to create chances like those, not half chances, not 3/4 chances, like 9 out of 10 chances, you can put up with a lot of other stuff. So very good second half from him. And yeah, Ledson was just absolutely dominant.
Owen Goodman, cause you were quite close to how he landed. I thought that was quite a horrible landing. He came out to take the ball. I think Alfie May possibly is under him, and he lands really badly. And you can see a whiplash effect with his neck, and his head hits the floor. I was quite surprised he played on, to be honest. He he took a real whack there. I thought people booing him afterwards, thinking he was time wasting, was a little poor, in all honesty. And he was a little bit all over the shop after that, wasn't there? The corner comes in, he basically crashes into his own man.
Mate. I think he was unconscious. I saw it, and like I couldn't believe people were like barracking him. What were kind of interesting as well, the Barnsley women physio, there were only one, but they were the town guys that were taking over the. So I don't know. They'll probably who knows our physio set more than me, but it's almost like they were kind of more to do with head injuries and stuff. Because obviously that stretcher came out, it looked like it were going on it, and then for someone to claim that, just honestly, anyone wants to like look at the difference between like feigning injury and a proper injury. Watch that Blackburn Preston game on Friday night. That's cheating. That's bollocks. That needs stamping out the game. And I'll say it for Lee Nichols. That's bollocks. We don't want to see that.
Got what they deserved, though, didn't they?
Yeah, that happened yesterday. Yeah, exactly, mate. But that happened yesterday. That was an injury. I think the thing is, because he's not going up on that stretch, and it took 6 to 8 minutes or whatever to get him off. But it was clear as that. It were awful, mate. I like all my days, and don't get me wrong. Obviously, he wasn't exactly a town fan's favourite and stuff, and I get the one of the games pantomime stuff, but I just felt he were all a bit. I thought I knew he'd get his name booed and stuff, but they were, really, mate. Just
you need a word with Matty Glennon, Kosi, because after the game, Glennon were fuming with Goodman for that. He were frothing. He was like us after Doncaster, saying it were a joke. He said, "I've had broke my cheekbone or something, and the ref had to come over to me." And I tried to play on. I got up after a minute, and ref said to me, "Matty, I can see your cheekbone." So he were having none of it. He was totally pissed with Goodman. The only thing I will say about it is when he did go down like he were dead, right? He did go down like he'd been shot, right? I was sat next to Gaz, and I said to Gaz, "Yeah, but you won't be surprised after 6 minutes or so he just gets up and plays on." That's kind of the guy that we kind of think he's as town fans. And the fact that he did, I think it can't just be me that feels like they weren't surprised by it happening. And I think that's probably what went against Goodman. Although, to be fair, boys, we can say it were bad, we can say it looked awful. I've never seen somebody before lay on the ground for 8 minutes before then getting up without the stretcher and playing on and taking the kick. That's what Glennon were pissed at as well. He didn't only just get up, the first thing he did was kick the ball back into play. And honestly, boys, in my however many years of playing football and watching football, too much football, I've never seen that before. So I'm not going to sit here and say it was a fake injury. I'm not right to say that. But what happened, I've never seen before. So I understand why town fans are a little bit antsy with it and a little bit ready to give him a bit of abuse, regardless of whether that's fair or not.
Yeah, I saw his head hit the ground, so I thought that was I thought he'd hurt himself, but it helped town because he stayed on, and you could see he was all over the shop because the corner comes in, he crashes into his own defender, almost punches it against his face and into the net, but it gets headed off the line, and then Town score again, which is again it's a nice.
Whoa! Stop here. We're going to butt in when Jerry said they didn't have any chances after that. You've gone straight into the goal. The sliding doors moment of the game and hopefully our season came before that. So I know we were on this podcast, so we shouldn't slag him, but Tom Bradshaw was through. If Tom Bradshaw scores 2-1, I don't think we come back, and I think our season is done there.
That happened at 2-1, didn't it?
Yeah, it happened. No, it happened at 1-1. It happened at 1-1. Yeah. And honestly, like, we go about goals of the season. Where does this rank with Radinho Balca's last-ditch tackles? Because I'm trying to think of the third one. Obviously, Lincoln were one. What did Luton? I think Luton were another, wasn't it? But this was
He's done
incredible.
It twice, hasn't he? He's done it twice as well.
Obviously, I'm totally at the other end of the ground. I'm trying to think, Killer, where did you sit? Where are you more near?
I sit next to Matt Riverside.
So you were kind of halfway line, but Worry proper clean through as it looked kind of from our end, what it would still had a bit.
I would clean through. Murray Wallace was with him, but Murray Wallace was not getting there. I know Tom Bradshaw isn't very fast. Murray Wallace were having none of it. It was clean through if Balker didn't get back. The only problem we've got with it, boys, it's all right calling it a fantastic last-ditch tackle. It also might be the last tackle Balker makes if he has got the boot on, as reported after the game. Yeah. Matt's spoiled it. Matt's ruined Balker's career because he keeps saying this is the most games ever played in a row without being injured. This is a record for Balker. And look what you've done, Matt. Now, Matt, look what you've caused.
He got injured in the first half, didn't he? And then he's left with a boot on his ankle.
Killer, don't you? I know we don't see much excitement at town, but don't you think seeing something like that? I'm not saying it's like as good as that Ledson goal against Luton, but for people who love the defending and love stuff, that is as good as like a volley for me. That it's sensational because you're thinking we're knackered here. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, bam, because no margin for error. I don't know if you can do double jeopardy. Would he got sent off if he hadn't got the ball and giving away a penalty? I don't know. We'd have lost them both. But honestly, the Lincoln thing was amazing. But it was sensational. And then again, it's another momentum thing, isn't it? Like, come on, we can win. We can still win it. And honestly, the guy. So someone put the best centre half in there. I think it's hard to argue when you see stuff like that. But there's obviously a lot of flaws with him. But honestly, that's 3 last-ditch tackles that have saved goals now, and it's sensational. He's just got the pace to do it, but it's not having the pace in it, but you've got to time it right. But it's absolutely sensational. He should have his own highlight reel again.
The pace, has the power.
But is that the end though? Now though, that's like secular, because the club were very quiet on it and stuff. And it was only because Radio Leeds kind of piped up that they see him going out of the ground with a boot on, and someone else, I think, in the, I don't call it White Rose Club, was it 1908 Club? Now they saw it as well, but. Yeah, that is a big concern, because what you don't want to see in midweek is a coming out, and when's our press conference? That was out on a Wednesday now. It's like
Wednesday.
So all of a sudden we're at Steiger bulk at Gooch obviously done and for a bit, and yeah, bad that. Did you notice it after that he was struggling or not? Or did you just did you? Yeah, I didn't really.
Yeah, I think the first half, Matt, like you say, he took a bit of a whack, didn't he? And I think he was limping around at that point. And he managed to play through it. But it's going to be a huge miss with him out, because, like I mentioned there, Wallace did start driving the ball out a little bit, but he's not natural, whereas Bolker is. Bolker's first game where he really had a proper effect, I thought, was at Mansfield away. I think we played 4-4-2 in that game, and all of a sudden we looked pretty wonderful. And from then on, he's played pretty much every game, bar that Luton game where we rested him and we fell apart again. I think Bolker's fitness or not being available affects what formation we can play going forward for the rest of this season. I think it's that crucial that if he's out and Jack Watmore isn't ready to go right now for Saturday next week, we're in quite a bit of trouble, because that last-ditch tackle, like you say, Kosi, that gets me as excited as a goal. It does. Leo Castledine did it earlier on in the season, didn't he, in the cup game? Can't remember who it was against. Was it who was that against, Matt? You'll remember than me. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I thought it was Doncaster in the league, like on a Tuesday.
I can't remember, but it was whatever it was. Where he sprint. He was in a cup game where he sprint back.
Killer, where
does
one of
the first things he did.
Where does Bolker rank with you when I know it's 3rd division and I know he's inconsistent, but as regards to like pace, bringing the ball out and tackling, I'm just trying to liken it to. I suppose someone old is Ken Monkawa kind of skillful, but I don't think I'm trying to think of anyone that has all them 3 attributes, because normally we have centre backs that are pretty slow, but like kind of, crowd favourites and stuff like that as well. But honestly, he's got the lot, but he's just such an enigma, isn't it? This guy is. Honestly, you watch that, I think, what are you doing here, mate, playing 3rd division football? But then he'll like you say, he's not that good in the air, but I'm just trying to think like town centre halves, Matt, like skillful, sexy town centre halves that can do that. There's not many of them, is there really?
No, I mean Congolo could do bits, but he couldn't pass like Bolker could.
Oh man,
please couldn't pass a bar later on in his town career anyway either. But we'll move on from him. So can we talk about town second now, Kosi? Are we allowed? Are we allowed?
Just wanted to pay respect. That was a sliding doors moment, guys. I did think you were going to mention it, and you wanted to know. Or would you have mentioned it?
I thought it was after for some reason. I thought it was after we went 2-1 up. So Balker's tackle. Murray Wallace makes a really good recovery tackle as well at one point, but it's from his own error, so he kind of rights that wrong a little bit. But that's a really good tackle, and Lee Nichols almost gives the game away a little bit, doesn't he, with bailing him out in another one. But town second's nice. It's Ledson and Balker really involved in this one. Balker driving the ball forward, and then it comes to Ledson, who plays a first-time ball into Cam Ashier, who'd been on 1 minute after he scored, who got the assist 1 minute after coming on. We scored 1 minute after Hardie came on for the first goal, and we scored 1 minute after Cameron Ashier came on for the second. So the subs are working very, very well there for Mr. Manning. He comes on, slides it across, and we've got a new hero, because Ryan Hardie, for me, was excellent. He was everything that we wanted from a striker. He ran the lines. He caused problems. He's quick-ish. He's not fully fit yet, so he should get better. He can play a little bit with his back to goal, but he's just a pain in the ass for defenders, isn't he? Because he can back in. He run lines. He basically knows what to do, Jerry, doesn't he? He's an intelligent striker. He's 28. He's at the other end of the scale from Bobby Wales, so it's not any kind of dig at Bobby Wales or anything. It's a 28-year-old who's done it in this league. He's scored goals. He's scored goals in the league above. Town are lucky to get this guy. If he's fit, if we can get him fit from now to the end of the season, he's going to get some goals, and he's going to transform our attack, I think, because I would love to see him and Bojan Radulik up front together at some point. That, for me, would be an excellent combo. And Killer, we said it on the driving, didn't we? 4-4-2 could be the way to go. And it's got an even bigger case now as well. So, boys, talk to us about that goal. It's a lovely bit of work from Town, 8 or 9 passes involved. Ryan Hardie on the front post. Goodman, one of those where if he doesn't get to it, no one will say a thing. But because he's got to it and he's wristed it into the top corners, I think some people might be unkind to him. But Town get the goal. Happy days.
And go for it, Killer.
Oh, what do you know? What these are the goals I enjoy the most. They're the ones I enjoy the most because there's so many aspects of it that aren't fortunate but just well worked. The first pass back to Ledson, Sorensen points it out. Sorensen points where to play the ball into. Obviously, it goes back to Ledson, and his reverse pass back into Ashia sells 3 Barnsley defenders. He sells them, but then Ashia has driven the ball at the goal, like he drives the ball towards the byline to goal. But he puts a concentrated, quite a delicate pass to the front post for Ryan Hardie to run onto, who's made a wonderful run as well. In this play, Hardie makes 3 runs. He's involved in the first bit of pass around after Bolka. He makes a dummy run first off when Ledson gets the ball. I don't know if it's a dummy run, but he makes a shift towards the back post, but then readjusts and then goes towards the front post for Kamashia to find him. I like the growth on Kamashia. Sound like Lee Grant here. But Kamashia over a few weeks ago smashes that ball across. He don't just pass it in, and you're seeing there a young lad who's having his first game time in a proper team, in a proper serious division, and he's growing week on week for me. And again, I'll put my weekly, he should be starting thing down there right now. But it's a fantastic ball in from him. Hardie gets an amazing touch, and Goodman's got no chance. He ain't got a chance of getting that. He's about 5 yards out. Barnsley have got enough men there to try and stop that, but they don't. I think they're knackered. They're under the cosh, and we've made the most of a brilliant move. Again, started by Bolka's nice little run into that midfield. Again, Matt, the same thing here has worked for 2 goals. It's not just a formation change. It's that the defensive line's much, much higher. It's made our midfield more compact. That's why Ryan Ledson's better in the second half, boys. It's no more than that. He's the same player no matter what. But if he's got to fill a gap that's 50 yards because you've got 1 striker at one end of the pitch, you've got 3 centre-backs so deep behind you, he can't fill that gap. That's not the midfielder he is. He isn't the guy that links the 2/3. What he is that when you've got a high defensive line, 2 strikers and 2 wingers basically playing as kind of a 4-2-4. It felt like a bit of a throwback to Lee Clark's old 4-4-2 at times in that second half. But then Ledson can get to work with Humphreys picking up the second balls. You know, it's not necessarily doing anything too intricate. It's just being that fight, being that grit, playing the nice balls like he did when you get it, but you don't have to do anywhere near as much work in transition. And that's when Ryan Ledson's at his best. It's a fantastic finish. But Ryan Hardie, Matt, isn't it nice to have a proper number 9? And now, like you say, he's tall, but he's not massive. He's fast enough, but he's not fast. He's not really anything, but he's everything at the same time. For me, for my childhood, we've always had a striker that could kind of do that. We had Marcus Stewart, we had Pavel Abbott, like these guys that, again, they've got a few traits that are a little bit different, but their overall game is pretty much number 9, run channels, come short if they need to, but they're willing to do a bit of everything. Where everything else we've signed recently when it comes to strikers, bar Alfie May, they're kind of like, oh, he's just a big guy, or he's just a runner, or he's just to this, or just to that, or Joe Taylor, he can score goals, but he's totally out of the game for the rest of it. So he might only touch the ball 4 times. Ryan Hardie, you can see already, he's not that. He's going to be involved all game in different things, and it opens things up for you. I'm looking forward to seeing him with Alfie May from the start, to be honest, Matt. And I really, really hope we get that this weekend in a 4-4-2, because even when Alfie May went off, which was just before this winning goal, Harness took that second striker role up, didn't he? He played high. He did kind of go to a 4-4-1-1 a little bit at times, but still was very much that 4-4-2 on the press, and we looked like a total different team because he dragged everyone forward. But what wonderful, intricate football that we've not seen enough of this year. He's only had them manning, what, three weeks now, and we've only had a few training days without having to prepare for the game. That goal wouldn't have happened a few weeks ago. There was some things in there that were designed that obviously it needs a little bit more time than just 3 weeks to get it to a level that it'll be there every single week, every single time you get the ball. I get that. But for a start off, what a fantastic worked goal that was, including a great finish from a striker I'm excited to see for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think Harder just changes everything. Like it's, I think we all felt like after Tuesday, and I love the extra time episode you guys had, just the pure froth after Tuesday was what that performance deserved, honestly. And, so I think like every Town fan, I'm sitting here after having watched that thinking, where do we go from here? Like, how do we get from these two performances, where we don't even have a shot on goal to being an actual, just making the playoff, even putting aside possibly winning it. And it starts with a striker. Like that's the biggest hole that were in those lineups, that we saw on Tuesday and that we saw the previous Saturday. Deion Charles, I credit his effort, but it's just not going to happen. Like you can't play successful football with a giant hole as your number 9. Like it's just not going to work. And we all know that. I'm not breaking any news there. But and then we saw the difference in that second half where that hole is filled. And Alfie May did some things in the first half, but he can't do it sort of by himself. I don't think he's that kind of striker. I think he's not in that sort of Bojan Radulovic type. And I never thought I would be thinking, oh, like Bojan Radulevic's injury has like crippled, Town, based on his first couple of seasons with Huddersfield. But it really created that hole. And, we know Deion Charles couldn't fill it. And, May, it just doesn't feel like that's what he's going to be able to accomplish. It feels like he needs to play off of somebody else a little bit. And then Ryan Hardie looks like that kind of guy. And it just really changes everything. I think what I told myself on Tuesday night was, okay, Liam Manning's only been here, as you point out, Killer, for a short period of time. He's got to figure some things out. One thing he's got to figure out is that Kasumu and Ledson can't play together in the center of midfield. Like, we're just not going to be able to attack effectively if those two guys are playing together there. We saw it early in the season. We've seen it again. Okay, Manning had to learn that. We're going to change that. We're going to replace, Charles. We're going to find somebody who can play as the number 9, and hopefully things will get better from those points. And we saw that in the second half. I think, Humphreys didn't do a whole lot there alongside Ledson in the center of the park, but there was still just, there's more space like to pass. The positioning was better. The passing was better. There was just a better foundation for attacking. And then we had the actual presence there at number 9 in the second half. And we got 2 really, really good goals out of it. Like those were not, fairy dust penalty type goals. It was 2 very well worked, very well executed team goals. And, full credit, as you point out, Killer, for Ashia's pass is pinpoint. There is not like a wide window for him to pass into there for Hardie to actually make that finish. It's a very precise pass from a player that I think for the most part, we don't associate with precision necessarily, right? It's all kind of speed and, pace and, just kind of physicality and running at people. And it really is great to see. I disagree. I still like Ashia coming off the bench rather than starting, just so we get him at his max, pace and, energy levels going against defenders that are already have 60 to 70 minutes behind them. But, however Manning deploys him, Ashley has got to be part of the team, whether it's starting, whether it's off the bench. Just too much happens when he is on the field for him to stay on the bench.
Did you see Kosi, who sponsors Ryan Hardie, when it came up at the end?
What?
Ryan Hardie is sponsored by the Muzzle Shop, and that was brilliant. Ryan Hardie sponsored by the Muzzle Shop, the Terriers, and all that. It was, very fun. Kasumu, good cameo as well, came on, and I thought it was really good for 10 minutes plus the 11 added on as well. Great run from him.
Matt, I thought, but yeah, Hardie just class, wasn't he? Just like a proper striker, and I don't think our midfield's good enough for promotion. But Kilmer, you had a good point last night. A good striker can be the difference and make up for the midfield not being all that. So, oh man, it just don't get injured or whatever, because he just makes striking look easy. It just looks like he enjoyed. He commanded the stage, didn't he? His celebration, everything. Look at me, I'm like, mate, you've only been there 2 minutes. But again, he's a threat. And when we signed him, there was a lot of heads turned, weren't there? Like wow, Huddersfield mean business here. So he's got to respect to the other teams in the league with his, well, as he should do with his track record. But yeah, you could see it on Tuesday, Matt, a little bit as well, even though we created absolutely hardly anything to nothing and that as well. Just his movement he'd be a player I'd hate to mark him though, because he's just like, where is he now? Oh shit, he's there, quick, I get him, no bang, he's scored. And it's like, we haven't got anyone like that. And I don't think I'm going to use it as an opportunity to slag fellow strikers, like some probably will, but it was just stood there, that quality. And like you said, Matt, what is exciting is he's not even nowhere near fit, is he? He's not many training sessions. We've been playing pretty much Saturday, Tuesday. So yeah, let the good times roll. The only thing, just to bring it down a little bit, is could Alfie May play with him? Because I'm a bit worried about Alfie May. He's just anonymous though, and I know he's been moved about, and I know he's been injured not injured, suspended quite a bit. But how can we get the best out of this guy? Can we shove him up? I know you're saying there, get Bojan up top, but could May play with Hardie maybe at some point? But it's frustrating to me. This guy, it's almost like you think, should we have signed him now? And of course, and when we signed him, we're thinking this is a standout. I remember it being on Sky Sports News, that ticker, like, wow, what's you got Alfie May? But honestly, it's so sad. But the crowd obviously still back him because he does a lot of running about. But it's like it says on the other podcast, there's a lot of charging about, a lot of wasted energy for me, where when I kind of look at Hardie, it's kind of clever use of energy. We must be able to get something better out of him than we are. What do you guys think?
He's not a sole striker. Alfie May's been played on his own for us at times, and he's just not that. He needs somebody with him. He's always needed somebody with him. We haven't had that support with him, other than when Radulovic was up there with him, and for that very short period of time, we did all right, didn't we? Form-wise, we were pretty good. It's just Alfie May needs somebody with him to get the best out of him. He has the trait that a few strikers have, that when it's not happening, they drop deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think actually coaching Alfie may be quite difficult, in that I think he doesn't listen to what the manager says. Clearly under Grant, in that he does what he wants. He goes into business for himself, as a wrestling term, Matt. I'll just chuck that one in there. I haven't got one in there today, but there we go. But he's busy doing what he wants to do. The problem is, when Alfie May does that, he doesn't do what Alfie May does best, which is score goals. If you can get somebody with him, or even if you get the ball upfield, because that's also something else we haven't done. It's not okay saying he can't play on his own. No one could play on their own with the quality of football that we've played recently. And if it is Hardie on his own with the support behind him, if he'd have started, Kosi, for me, on Saturday with the exact same 11 behind him, we've not even spoke about Will Alves, because he did absolutely nothing whatsoever in the game. It was like playing with 10 men at times with him, unfortunately. You could see, somebody mentioned near me that he looked like a kid playing football, and he did. To me, he looked like a lad that's just playing his first senior football games in a formation that he doesn't really understand. Doesn't understand that role that he needs to do. What's his defensive work and his defensive responsibilities, and they've been able to switch quickly to the attacking role. It looked like you could see from the side Alves was struggling with that, and no matter who would have played up front on Saturday, for me, Harness was quiet in that first half too. There'd have been no supply for them, so I think it's a little bit unfair to point a finger at Alfie May's performance on Saturday alone, because nobody with that midfield would have been able to look like a proper 9, I don't think, unless they'd have been 7'8" and could have headed everything. Other than that, I don't think anybody would have been able to do too much. So I'm kind of going to ignore the Alfie May that we saw on Saturday prior to Hardie coming on. How long did they play together for? Was it like 14 minutes? And there was one goal scored within that. So effectively, it has worked. It's just we only saw a small sample size of it. I think this weekend we might see a bit more, but I think he can work very well with Ryan Hardie, because he will drop in to be that 10 if necessary. And coaches are obsessed with having fluid formations and players being able to play different positions within the same formation, within different formation, within the same game. Alfie May can do that for us. He takes his goals away, but if Hardie's there doing what he did on Saturday, maybe that's okay. Maybe that's acceptable, but we'll definitely find out, because we don't have many other strikers available. So we're going to see it work, or at least try and work at some point.
Well, I think you've heard enough of us four. I think it's time to hear what's been going on with the Andy Takes That Chance squad, isn't it? So what we'll do is we'll look at the big shiny red button that I've got here, and we'll press and listen to our voice notes.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Bouvet.
Hello, there is no one here to take your call, so for your convenience, we have answered it automatically. Now don't hang up. When you hear the tone, leave your name and a brief message, and we will contact you upon our return.
Alex here from Sunny Ossett, reporting in after the Barnsley game. Another veritable game of two halves. Not the worst first half I've ever seen, despite what was mentioned in other quarters. Still seem a little bit afraid to run with the ball from one side of the centre circle to the other. Touch of class from McGoldrick with a little feint back heel and the shot. Just a great effort. But then the half-time team talk came. Obviously the switching formation, switching tactics, switching personnel looked a lot more lively. After that, Ryan Hardie looks like an absolute class act, and can't wait to see more of him. But another positive step towards knowing more about the team for the manager and looking like we can respond to adversity and not crumble, which I was really afraid we'd do. So all in all, pretty positive. 3 points. On to Wigan, up the town.
Hi, Billy Town here. Well, that's probably the kind of game that I go to watch football for. Not dominant, not one-way traffic, but a real rollercoaster ride. Really good to see. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, there was a distinctly dodgy bit in the first half and into the second, but the effort to change things around was really impressive. Yeah, absolutely loved it. Ryan Hardie made a real impact when he came on. Exactly the kind of striker that you want to see. I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot more of him play for us. Other players that deserve mentioning, Ledson obviously rediscovered his form from recently. Bolker in defence was good. I'd kind of like to see him play as a kind of a sweeper, maybe a bit of a free remit around the two other central defenders, but maybe that's a bit decadent. A few other good performances in there, but mainly just a real team effort. Really enjoyed that. Cheers all.
Jimmy Islip here to talk about Huddersfield Town 2, Barnsley 1. I thought it was going to be another case of a wily old centre forward getting the better of Town, a little bit like Billy Sharp did the other week in the Papa John's Trophy. I thought it was Dave McGoldrick's turn. I thought he played fantastic first half and just making me think we just missed that bit of experience up top. But maybe Ryan Hardie is that person. I thought he was fantastic when he came on, and just exactly what we've been lacking since Bojan got injured, and that was really good to see and just changed the game. And what a roller coaster, eh? This team, just when you think they're just hopeless, they show a bit of fight and they come back. And let's just hope we can get a bit of consistency next few weeks, consistency in selection and consistency on the pitch. And let's see where it takes us up the town.
Malcolm Megatron in Marthamride here. Well, I'm not in Marthamride, lads. I'm actually in bloody Huddersfield Royal Infirmary, or HRI as they call it up here. So I went down to the game today against Barnsley and I got in my usual seat in Lawrence Batley, and I were bloody cheesed off with that first half, I can't lie to you. Same bloody Muddy Wallace pulling strings with his piss poor passing range, and same bloody Ballymumba ballooning passes out of play. Oh, just that I've seen this 100 times before. So a couple of minutes before half-time whistle, I just said, I'm going home, me, and, sod this for a game of soldiers. So I chucked my pie onto the pitch and I walked down. And when I got out, I was so bloody annoyed that I volleyed one of them concrete balls outside Club Shop, and I broke my leg, didn't I? So I had to get the bloody ambulance up to HRI, and it's been a right carry on, lads. So I'm sat here now and I've got bloody sick folk all round me. News has just filtered in that we bloody beat them 2-1 with Ryan Hardie goals. So, maybe I'm the bloody curse, lads. I don't know. I've been supporting this club for 117 years and it's been out but shit. The year we got to the bloody Premier League in the 2000s, I was backpacking in Thailand. I was seeing the sights, if you know what I mean. So I missed all of that, and today I break my bloody leg in Huddersfield win, so I might stay away for the rest of the season. Hopefully we get promoted, lads. All right, hold the hairy chest. I'm about to call a nurse for the bloody bed bath here, so I am. All right, see you later.
A weird game for Town. They probably got the result they wanted, not the performance that they wanted. They were quite below par for a lot of the game. I thought, to be fair, both teams were quite below par, other than McGoldrick being the best player on the pitch and scoring a great goal. They lost a lot when he went off the pitch in the second half. You could feel tensions boiling over when it gets to half-time. After a really poor first half, there was just that feeling of, oh, here we go again, we're being crap again. And you could just feel that frustration coming, and then Manning makes those changes after half-time, around 60 minutes, I think it was, and you could immediately feel the difference by just having somebody that's a bit bigger up front. They had to change how they think. It wasn't about being a target man. He was running in the channels. He was just creating more different problems for Barnsley's defence to deal with. And yeah, Hardie made all the difference from that. Takes his goal really well and opens the space for Ryan Ledson to take a really good header, and a great cross from Barley Mumba. A great cross from Ashier as well for Ledson's winner. Yeah, a weird game, because like I say, you just come away thinking, good result, I'm happy with that, but not fully convinced by the performance, but hopefully it's something to really build on for Town. Anyway, up the Town, on to the next one.
The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
Okay, so thank you to all the voicemails that we've had left, and we'll have some more next week. Let's move on very quickly. So there has been a interesting Kevin Nagel episode appear on YouTube this week that I think some of us watched, some of us hadn't. There's possibly some truths in it, possibly some not. We'll probably skip that for this week and maybe come back to that at a later date, but just wanted to say that we had seen it, and we'll probably talk about it another time. Towns under 21s, Kosi. We've got our roving reporter, Mr. Kosmala. Couldn't keep up with the score. Town under 21s went to Sheffield Wednesday. Is it Middlewood Lane where the academy is? And had a bit of a cricket score. I mean, you keep score at cricket, and you couldn't keep scoring this one, Kos. So
it became a bit of a joke, because I told everyone at half time it was 3-3, and we were losing 3-2, and then 8-6. Mad game. But my Wednesday night friend told me that most of their under 20 was in the first team, so that's the reason why they lost. But yeah, one of those weirdest. I don't think I've ever seen 14 goals in one game. Oh, I never have. I don't know if you're counting that penalty shot at Wembley when Smithers. It was ironic when you were the program kind of guest, wasn't he, or the podcast guest, wasn't it, for the club? But yeah, no, it was good, Matt. I think the one thing that kind of, I suppose at that level it's a bit different, but they played with a lot of freedom, did our guys, and they were good to watch. And obviously, I came into the back of that after that Doncaster game where we were kind of tepid and didn't really have a go and everything. And to me, it's just about just watching people express themselves and having a go. And like you mentioned there, like McGoldrick and that Barnsley, I want to see stuff like that. So maybe we want to see a bit more defending. But it was mad.
Because they don't defended. How good Warwick knows. Oggy play centre midfield as well. Where Oggy back to his best. Where he crunching.
It was surreal, because it was a bit of one of those. I didn't get a team sheet, but I didn't manage to take a picture of one of someone who was at the sideline. So I'm thinking, because obviously in the Tuesday game, Watmo and who else got some minutes? I forgot. The other player got some minutes. So I thought they're not going to. Yeah, you don't normally have two of them games in the 3 days. So I thought we're not going to see them on Friday. But then I thought, hang on a minute, who's that number 6 there? He looks kind of familiar. He looked in decent shape. They had Nathaniel Chalabar coming back from a long injury as well, killer. So them and Og did a bit of a hug, because everyone else was just like their kids are old enough to they could be their dads. But yeah, mad. Torrential rain, which didn't help and stuff as well. But yeah, everything that we just did were obviously going in. But yeah, Voss played well, and I'm trying to think who else did well. But yeah, just like we have. Yeah, there's some good. I think the hardest thing in that, killer, when you're watching it, is just like you don't really know the step up, and obviously we've seen some of these guys kind of get a few minutes now and again out there, like in the first team, but it's very difficult, isn't it, just to sling some of one of them guys into the first team, because you're just thinking, yeah, it's there's a few of them scouts that I were in. I think there was one from Halifax, one from Fylde. So that's the kind of market that people are looking, and it's just going to be the conveyor belt, unfortunately, isn't it? Some of these guys are just going to get kind of low moves and things, and mad game, and one I won't forget in a hurry. Yeah, an 8-6 win for Huddersfield Town. One thing that I'm just going to knack up the order, but there was an article today about, I didn't know Ashley were out of contract, and obviously it was in the Daily Sunday Mail, so it was obviously going to be true. So Rangers and a few of us after him. I didn't realise he's turning heads as much as he is at our level.
I think his agent's trying to turn heads, to be honest.
Is it one of those, mate? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine, yeah.
I don't think it'll be next year, though, will you? But you don't. Then kind of clubs come.
There's a worrying trend of young players coming to Huddersfield and then trying to get out as soon as possible, and not signing contracts. There's a few: Kamara, Diarra, Brody Spencer. There's quite a few, which is like I say, it's a worrying trend. But we'll see. I thought Town would have offered him something by now. I don't know if they have, but you would have thought they would have offered him a contract at this point. But who knows? Because these things don't always come out.
Matt, just quickly to go back to Sheffield Wednesday, we're there nice and early, so I thought I'll have a little walk around Hillsborough. You could kind of get right near the ground, and honestly, you get them romantic eyes, mate, don't you? I just thought I'll Google when that semi-final was, and I had a little look at the top tier, and mate, that was the best night of my life. I think that I gave it Hillsborough. I know people point to the final and stuff, but what I love about football grounds when there's no one in them, it's just you're alone with your thoughts there. And I know there might be some people thinking, what a sad loser, but there's nothing better than being in a football ground when you do like stadium tours abroad and stuff, and like, oh God, you remember this and goal and that goal. But honestly, every time I walk past Hillsborough, we could lose 10-0 in the next game there, Matt, but nothing will ever take away that night that we're there. And obviously, mention them today because obviously they've been relegated today, and we'll see them. Well, hopefully we won't. We'll be taking their place in the championship. But the old place, mate, has seen better days. No, it's not a Wednesday podcast, but the training ground. You can imagine it under Big Ron in the 90s. It were like the place to be and stuff, but like the paint were like fading away and stuff. And the pitch, the gym looked pretty kind of nondescript and stuff as well. Obviously, Hillsborough's seen better days. So, like you mentioned there, kind of Kevin Nagel and stuff. At least there's been a bit of investments, kind of in some of the infrastructure where you kind of go around Hillsborough. But you didn't Sheffield Wednesday's podcast, so I'll shut up about that game. But mate, when's the next under-21 game? I think we'll get a season card for them.
And then you went one better today, didn't you? And you went to watch Town versus the Chestessers.
Wow, what a game, mate! Proper wind that ruined the game. I don't know if you've ever seen Garforth Town's pitch. It's unbelievable. It's I don't know how you call it, but it's just like, it's not flat. It's just like, it's all over the place. And then obviously throwing a bit of mud and stuff. So it became pretty quick from early doors, Matt, that it was just not, both teams weren't going to play much football. But I just thought it was massive that Huddersfield at least tried to win the game at half time. The kind of the talk was Kate Malin kind of got subbed off at half time. We were thinking, are they going to go for it? Would kind of Glenn go for it in the second half, or would he be happy with his point? Because obviously we've got that 2-point deduction, which the club are fairly confident of winning their appeal. So it'll be interesting that. I don't think that's far away from being, and that obviously could make a massive difference because the table's so tight. But second half, the Leeds were playing with the wind, and there was a bit more when I was chatting to Beth after the game, but like we were stuck at the other end. But the ball just kind of were like booted long, and Beth like flapping. I think, oh my God, it's going to go in, but she managed to get a palm to it and push it around the post. And then we scored the winner, Matt, and Rima Lordmere scored it, even though I put Laura Elford. It was a bit of a scramble, but it was absolutely massive. They defended really well then, mate, and it was just like good. And they had 7 subs today, Matt. That's the biggest bench they've had. Like Molly Firth's gone out on loan to Bradford. Elise, who's like Latvian international, she's gone on loan to Fylde. So it just shows the strength now. So, like we're kind of looking at the men and obviously Gooch and obviously a bit of an asterisk on Balker. The women's team are looking really strong just when it needs to be and that as well. So I'm not one of those that kind of says now they should go on and win it, but really it's in their hands. I think it were huge. It were a proper feisty game, Matt. Not much football, but you knew it were a big game. Obviously, Leeds have beaten Town twice this year, winning the cup, winning the league, and I felt they had to get away with them 3 points. But there were pretty wild celebrations at the end. Obviously, the home fans weren't happy, and keep an eye on that. Obviously, the Stockport game got called off on Thursday, so there should be a few midweek games, and fingers crossed they can get up. obviously that Q&A, I know it's not on our agenda, but I did pop the question. Chris Markham did answer it, because I kind of seen is the investment there. Because it's a big step up, Matt, if they do get promoted, and there's teams that, like Burnley in there now, and they're like full time, they're doing like video documentaries and stuff. I know they'll go up again because like they've kind of thrown a lot of money at it and stuff as full-time players. But if you're going to go up, you need to take it seriously. But it sounded like from what Chris said, mate, that's what they're going to do in that as well. So yeah, no, exciting times, mate. I'm just hoping that they're going to come good. They do seem to chuck a bad performance in, but after that, hopefully now it's just kind of onwards and upwards. And yeah, fingers crossed they can get promoted. But yeah, it was good, Matt, and it were a proper some town performance you can get behind. Great fight and the win, and obviously a derby win and that as well. So yeah, brilliant. Good to see them at the top of the league now and that as well. Kind of the games are balanced out. So yeah, but like just finishing with our season, everyone in the pub are like confused. All these scores are coming up, and we're seeing where they are on the table. We're a bit more entrenched in that 6th spot than we were before. I just can't figure it out. I walked out of Doncaster on Tuesday thinking we were mentally done. We were done. The crowd were done. That were it. And it just sucks you back in, doesn't it? It's unbelievable. I couldn't believe them scores at the end. It's like you are having my eyes out. And what, a 94th minute goal for Burn, 96th minute. Bradford have lost at about 5:30. And obviously we've got a lot more tough fixtures to come, and you need a lot more convincing. But it's an incredible, like was said in them voicemails, the roller coaster that we're having. Honestly, it's unbelievable. And I don't know about everyone out there another way. It's not good for the old blood pressure, but yeah, I'm sure we'll take a 2 or 3 out to Wigan on Saturday now. And it's consistency with you saying, Jenny, how are we going to get it? It's just like, I just can't trust anything anymore. But that 6th spot is still well in our, I'm not saying in our hands because it's not within games in hand, but what, I don't know. We could still do it, and it just feels surreal, doesn't it? After when you walked out of Doncaster, just like, this is garbage. They were garbage, and yeah, and we're back in the pub on Saturday, like, come on, the Terriers. Well, Killer, are we going to go for what? It don't feel a promotion here, does it? But why not, eh?
Don't put me on the spot on this one, Kosi. I think that the results of Bolker's boot will go a long way to determining how our season will pan out from here. So unless until Liam Manning gives us a proper update on how long that's going to be, I'm not entirely sure. Because if we all remember how we were pre-Bolker coming to this side, it was a lot worse than post-Bolker. So I think we have to see for now.
The end. It's flat ending here. We didn't want that.
I think we'll end it there, boys. So we've been going on for an hour and 10 minutes. So thank you, everybody, for listening to us ramble on for quite a while. Remember, join the Patreon, www.takesthatchance.com. 2 different layers, free, or you can support the boys and get some few extra added bits from the site as well. So thanks, everyone. Join us for the drive-in midweek, and I'm sure the Town Social Boys will be here and there and everywhere at some point as well.
Now, Darren Bullock. It's the last penalty, and if he scores from this, they are through to the final. And Huddersfield are there. Darren Bullock is the hero.
In goes Robbins. And coming from the free kick, taken short to Brown, and Robbins making a dart across the face of the defenders, a perfect header. Brown gets a flick, Fletcher!
Jepson's there, Billy's in! A goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town! The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.